Every veteran has a story. A story of sacrifice, courage, humor, and heartache. Each week, Veteran Story Hour captures these remarkable stories firsthand in the voices of those who've served. Recorded live from the weekly Friday brunch in the Saluda, Virginia studio in Waynesboro. This is more than a podcast. It's a living history, preserving the legacy of America's heroes. You're listening to Veteran Story Hour, Voices of Valor, presented by Saluda, Virginia. Let's begin. 24 years ago, a group of American warriors carried the weight of a nation into the mountains of Afghanistan. Some with rifles, some with radios, and with pieces of the World Trade Center in their rucksacks. Chris Spence didn't go in with fanfare. He went in with purpose. His job was communication. What he came back with was history, etched in memory, buried in foreign soil, and captured in the photo that changed everything. In this episode, Spence takes us beyond the headlines and into the early, uncertain days of a war that began with horses, donkeys, satellite uplinks, and a nation's raw resolve. He tells us what was won, what was lost, and what it means to carry freedom and leave it behind. This is Veteran Story Hour, Voices of Valor, presented by Saluda, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Sergeant Christopher Spence.
Christopher Spence. I grew up in Oregon, small town, lived about 1 mile outside a town called Donald, right between Portland and Salem, agrarian area in the Willamette Valley.
Amazing. Now, you've brought some, we don't have a lot of props that usually get brought in, and you've brought some items that are sitting here on the table. So like let's get started on what's the silver rectangle.
Well, the silver rectangle is, since this is 9/11, I was gifted a piece of the World Trade Center from some members who were down there after 9/11 who were cleaning up the debris field after 9/11. And they had made 11 of these, and I was gifted one of these. And it's a piece of the North Tower. And it's been etched and plasma etched and chromed. And it's got the Special Forces crest emblazoned upon the steel.
How much did that 9/11 piece and those towers, how much did they drive and influence kind of everything that you did of why you have this fame that's now tied to you?
Well, there's another story that you guys don't know as well, because each of the ODAs that went into Afghanistan were given a piece of the World Trade Center to carry with them. And at the end of our mission, when we were considered mission complete, based off the guidance we were given, we then buried pieces of the World Trade Center in Afghanistan.
So that was one piece that the movie got right.
Yes. Now, it got a second part right, too. When the ODA was driving through the middle of Mazar-e Sharif and they found all their stuff for sale, that happened as well. Except it had their names on the stuff, because we went in sterile.
That's awesome. Like the idea of everything dropping in and then being stolen, and then you got to buy it all back.
We introduced capitalism.
I love that.
Because the funny part was, during the airdrops is we would usually we'd get word, hey, we're sending in supplies, or it's coming in by helicopter or something like that. So sometimes they would say you get a drop. So we'd show up to get ready for our drop. And then we got the area secure. We're all good to go. And then all of a sudden you hear the planes coming in. And then the sand people would show up, or the kind of like out of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
There's no one there. And then you're surrounded. It's like, yep. Where did you people come from? And they were there because they heard that the planes, because we've already induced them, planes mean food.
It's like a Pavlov's dog.
Exactly. So they would show up, and then the supplies would drop, and then the gunfight would start about who got what stuff.
I don't know if you know this, but there's a video game. It's called Fortnite.
Yes,
and
it's probably based off that.
Fortnite has airdrops.
Yep.
That then everybody goes and fights to the death to get whatever they can out of this airdrop.
Yep. So what we would do, once we figured out that's not a good way to work on the battlefield, we'd say, look, drop their stuff with chem lights so they can follow that, drop ours with IR chem lights. And then give some separation between the two.
Yeah. Because, I mean, otherwise you just have everybody, it's just a free-for-all.
Right. And we're not going to get involved in that. So we're like, okay, we're fine.
Man.
I mean, it's just, it's that learning curve stuff that you learn as you go along, right? Because what's doctrinally tactical for us back here in all of our training doesn't really translate into the real world.
Well, yeah, I mean, that, and granted, a lot of the stuff that you guys were tasked to do is all things that have never been done before.
That, a lot of it, yes. We've done the UW concept, partner force work. That, I mean, that's the one mission in SF we never thought we'd ever be able to do.
Right.
Other than notionally in Robin Sage, maybe some training says we never actually thought we get to do our job.
Yeah.
Right. So we actually got to go into Afghanistan, link up with the partner force, and advise, train, and assist. Our core mission set, and we did it. And then what the funny thing was is when a member of ODA 595 and I were on the John Deere Gator. We did bring in 2 John Deere Gators with us in early November, and we were doing a resupply to some of their other outlets. As you saw in the film where the guys were out in those little outposts.
Yeah.
We had driven out there to resupply them. Well, we're on the John Deere Gator. We have our Afghan security guard with us. And then over the hillside, we see all these guys on horseback. And I'm like, you've got to stop the Gator. I've got to get a picture of this because no one's going to believe this shit. And so we stop. Guys are coming over the hill. I take the picture. And then they come down further along. And then there's another individual. That I'm like, hey, don't look at me. Just do like you're riding a horse, right? So I did my little, O&I photograph course. They teach in the Q course and pan, click, right? Good to go. Next one comes by and it's the team leader from ODA 595. I'm like, hey, don't smile. What does he do? He smiles. So you got this great picture of him on his horse, big smile. Like, no, this isn't your lovely Caribbean, riding on the beach photos I'm looking here for, right? So then we set those 2 pictures up, and then what happened back stateside, when the picture went forward, it went viral everywhere. Hey, Don Rumsfeld goes, yeah, we've been in Afghanistan and we're on horseback. We had no idea that photo did anything to move the needle on anything.
Because why would you?
Right.
Out of all the photos you would have been taking, why would one of them all of a sudden just explode?
Why would that one matter?
Yeah, and we had no idea because, I mean, I'm sure they heard about it back at the siege. You saw it, but us on the ground, nothing. So it wasn't until like February 2002, I'm like, hey, that's my photo. And it says U.S. Army at the bottom.
Of course it does. Now, one of the biggest emotions that I had as I was, we're watching the movie and you guys are coming into Afghanistan on the helos and you're coming in. The overwhelming sensation that I had would be like, this is like going to the fucking moon. Like the emotion would be like, you're about to drop in and no one else has been there.
Yeah, because we inserted ODA 595 and triple nickel, I think, on like the 19th or 20th of October. And then we infilled another ODA right after that. So we had 3 ODAs in country. And then about that time, like, hey, look, we need to get more ODAs in country, but we also need to put in ODCs. Now, ODCs are command and control elements, and they really hadn't done that since Vietnam. So they threw together a couple ODCs, and I was part of that ODC mission. I was ODC 5-3, and we went in to link up with General Dostum. So basically, so the teams are already downrange. We're getting their sit reps coming in each day. They on October 30th, 31st, my sergeant major comes and says, hey, pack your stuff. We're going in tomorrow as part of that ODC. Luckily, the weather was bad. We couldn't get in that day, so we finally got in on the 2nd, and we were just command and control element. But being on the helicopters, yeah, we didn't know basically where we were going. So I pretty much slept the whole time in the back of the helicopter because, as going in combat, you don't know when you're going to get sleep. So you get sleep when and where you can. So I wrapped up in my Army issued wool green blanket and I cuddled up on the bench and sat there on the Gator. And then we crossed the border and the guns went off. I'm like, weapons check, go back to bed. Next thing you know, I smell JP8. I'm like, what's going on now? And the helicopter's going up and down. And you can see the refueling boom as we're being refueled after we crossed the border and did the weapons check. And then, I was asleep. We went up the mountain, down the mountain, And then we go in and like, hey, 5 minutes out, get on the gator, 30 seconds out. I start it, I'm sitting there, and then we land. And I'm waiting for them to open the back door. The door ramp doesn't go down. I'm getting no communication. Sitting there, then all of a sudden we take back off. Now we fly for a little bit more, and then we land. Then the gate goes back down, and we drive the gators off. And then the ODC 5-3 gets off. Then they take back off because they're also inserting, I think, 2 other teams that night.
So why the land and then take off again?
Great question. So our near-far recognition signal for LZ Burrow was going to be a fire in the middle of this little open area.
Sure.
Well, we saw the fire. Well, the pilots did, and they landed there, but that was the wrong fire. So we landed in a POW camp where all the Taliban were being held by the Northern Alliance, and so they tried to get on the helicopters. They thought they were getting flown out. So one of the guys had to get out the helicopters and who spoke enough Arabic to say, no, this is not your ride. The next one will be here in a while. And we got back on the helicopters and landed where we were supposed to.
Now, how tumultuous and how like razor thin of trying to keep the Northern Alliance an actual alliance and keeping them together. How rocky was that actually?
Well, you're dealing with egos because you had, Ada and Dostum and all them there, but everyone defaulted to Dostum. He was the de facto alpha male of the group. He had the most wasta, whatever you want to call it, and he'd been there the longest. His picture was still painted on the crossing point between Uzbekistan and Afghanistan when he was the regional commander when the Soviets were occupying. He used to work for them. And his picture in Soviet uniform was painted on the wall there as a reminder of who's in charge. Now, look who's back. And we went back to his old headquarters. Yeah, it was, but as long as we kept them, as long as we showed them the right amount of attention,
yeah,
everybody felt like they were part of the greater good.
And were you really like racing with the other teams that had been dropped in of making the progress that was necessary, where you're almost helping these different factions? Even though Ross is the main dude, right? Like culturally, but are you really running with these different groups that are almost competing against each other?
They were basically subordinate elements to Dostum, where the other elements of ODA 595 were supporting them, where we then began working with Dostum directly as the ODC. We were doing a lot more of the logistical support, getting the supplies in that they needed to arm his guys to move forward.
So then the structure, there would have been a hierarchical structure that you were more than aware of.
Yeah, because they had their tribal structure.
Right.
And then we had our ODA, ODC structure. Mm-hmm. So we had different teams with different folks, and we all coordinated together because once we cleared Mazar-i Sharif and went to Kunduz, we had roughly 3 ODAs with 3 different groups of guys all pulling in on to Kunduz.
Some of the feedback I feel like I've heard over the years was like a lack of understanding of those tribal differences of the people that were there, just making assumptions that each one is going to be similar to another. And there was just really wide varying differences between the groups.
There were, because remember, each guerrilla force has their own end state in mind. There's a common one, then there's a personal one.
Yeah.
One of the ODAs I talked to, the guy they linked up with used to own a pizza place in the United States. He had immigrated and lived in the United States, but then came back to fight. And he was in charge of one of the guerrilla groups.
I always think it's, when you hear those stories, he was here, then he went back. And a lot of times it'd be like, why?
Oh, absolutely.
Why would you go back? But then flip it.
Would you do the same thing?
Would we, if we were anywhere else?
Yep.
And the towers go down, it's like, oh no, bitch, I got to get home.
Yeah, I'm out.
Like it's time to go take care of
my backyard.
Exactly. One of the themes that I really dug in the movie, and again, I try not to take, because I just know what happens when movies get made, right? But a theme that I really enjoyed in the very, very beginning was this concept where it's like, we've just been hit in the mouth, and there's a group of us that have the skill and the know-how to go hit them back. And we're literally the right guys at the right moment. And
with the right plan.
Exactly. Was that really like I'm sure there were a lot of different plans that were popping up right at that time.
Yes. Basically, from what I've heard, been told, been discussed. So they're sitting up there with the SecDef, and everyone's like, hey, we can go next summer. We need tanks. We need to open up these routes. We need to bring in the armored vehicles. It was all a very heavy infiltration to Afghanistan, but logistically that wouldn't work because there are really no ports of entry to bring stuff in like that. So we came in with the check this out. We can go in by helicopter, link up with the indigenous forces already there, smaller footprint, smaller logistical requirement until we can get the forces massed and build the support infrastructure on the outside. So we were the cheapest, most nimble option to go in. And Rumsfeld said, I like it, let's go. When 9/11 happened, 3rd Battalion Bravo Company was already packed up to deploy to Kuwait as part of our, annual 3 months in the sun tour in Kuwait that we used to used to routinely do. So we're already packed up. We've already done the PDSS. We're in like 2 weeks. We're going. 9/11 happens. You're not going to Kuwait now. Now the guys in Kuwait now hate us because they're not coming home. Right?
They're stuck in the sun.
Secondary and tertiary effects of what happens. Right. So then we repacked. We know what we needed to bring. Now we don't know what we need to bring, so we're bringing everything. I mean, stuff I hadn't touched in, the 2 years I was inside as the senior comm guy for the B team. I brought everything, every connector, every reel of wire, because I didn't know what we were getting into. So we repacked, and then as the military usually works, as you guys will all probably laugh about, hey, we're in stage 1 of the deployment. We're stage 6. So it's Thursday, the day before the long weekend on Columbus Day. We probably won't leave until Tuesday of next week. All right, sweet. Got a timeline. Coming Thursday morning, we do PT, just crush it on PT. We just smoke. We get back, get ready to shower. Hey, yeah, the timeline, you're leaving tonight.
Yeah, that seems completely accurate from an Army timeline.
So go grab all the stuff you're going to get this weekend now. Kiss your families goodbye and be back here in about 3 hours. Ran back, couple hours delay, but we did move out that night. A funny story to that is my wife at the time and my 2 sons came up to say goodbye to us right there in the company area before we left. While we were there, I was talking to my son, and he had this Curious the George-like thing with him, right?
Sure.
Well, he inadvertently gave it to me, and I put it in my pocket and didn't know it. So next thing I know, I'm in K2, and I've got this little Curious the George thing with a little loophole in my pocket. Well, I can't lose this because he'll probably remember like kids do.
Oh, yeah. That'll be the one thing he remembers of the entire scenario.
Kind of like your wife from 30 years. Hey, Gail, remember when you did that? So I wanted to avoid that. So I actually carried that Curious George with me the entire time in Afghanistan on the necklace around my neck.
That's the most well-traveled Curious George plush animal.
It was hard plastic.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Don't take plushies to Afghanistan.
I love that we're splitting hairs over which type of Curious George item is going to make it.
It's a masculinity thing.
I understand.
And so I then brought that back home to him. I'm like, here you go on the 550 cord gut that I carry on. He still has that to this day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story. So you guys are getting out there and how did the mission start to evolve?
Well, when we first got to K2, it's like, hey, you're the first ones here. There's like, we slept on the dirt that day. Like, hey, we're going to set up the ISOFAC. Like, okay, got it. So we set up the ISOFAC, put up all the RFABs. There's not many that R's in that sense. So we set up the RFABs, and then we began receiving ODAs to begin isolation probably the next week, right? So we brought them in, isolated them, and then they waited around until they would get a mission statement, which they would go plan for, and they would go into their 72-hour planning cycle. See, SOTF started to show up by then, so they started assuming more of the command and control of, commo checks, intel stuff, everything else going through them, like you would back when you were stateside, like you've trained for, right?
Sure.
So now we're executing it in a siege SOTF or a SOTF complex, like we were over in Uzbekistan. Running those processes. Then as they started to take more and more control, the B team comms guy, I really didn't have a job anymore other than helping the other 18 echoes make sure all their comms gear. Okay, we've synced it. You've got your frequencies. You've got all the widgets that you need. These are the frequencies that you need, everything else. These are the ranges we've tested these certain things at, so you should work. So we started launching the teams out like that. And then The mission shift was we needed the C teams on the ground with the big tribal leaders, and that's when that changed. That's when I got pulled out of the B team. So we left basically the rest of the B team behind, and we took a collection of people out of 3rd Battalion. We took the Bravo Company Sergeant Major, the 3rd Battalion S3, myself as a senior common guy for Bravo Company, the medic from the senior medic, and another 18 Echo from another team. And then we brought two Air Force Special Tactics Squadron guys in with us. And that was our little C team. And that's what we launched with.
And the C team is essentially on the fly.
Yeah, so well, I don't even say on the fly, but it's an ad hoc collection of specialties to advise and assist senior leaders in the field.
And that was the piece that wasn't necessarily planned?
No. Not because we haven't done that since Vietnam.
Why?
Because we haven't had a war where it's been needed before, right? So we adapted. Hey, dust off those old playbooks again. Hey,
yes.
C team, I heard about those. What do they do again? All right, so this is what a C team does, and that's what we executed. And we had one with General Dostum, future President Karzai, and some of the other leaders in the country.
So multiple C teams that are then dependent upon those leaders, were those guys chiefs, generals? What were they?
Karzai, he was with one. We were with General Dostum, who eventually became the vice president of Afghanistan. And then Karzai, as you know, became the president of Afghanistan. I don't know what the other C teams did because, you're regionally located.
Right.
So what's that like, just being essentially you're the guy in in Bravo team, and so what makes them say, hey, we want that guy, and that guy? It's kind of like a job interview. You got all these guys, and you're like, well, how do you pick this one, and this one? Like, what makes that you want these 5 guys, you want these 2 Air Force guys instead of the other guys?
It was the mission statement that we were given. That's why we had to bring the 2 STS guys in. And I was a free commo guy without a job. And they, you know how to do commo, we know that. And so we can fill you here, but we'll bring a backup and we'll bring an 18 Delta as well. And it was our B team, 18 Delta. So he wasn't really needed on the team because they already had their 18 Delta. So
right.
He's the free 18 Delta. So basically, hey, you guys are free help. So we need you on this team. And it doesn't disrupt the other functions of the B team or anything else because there's already redundancy built into the system.
Yep, the standard Army way. We're going to take 50 of you guys because we need 50 commo guys, but we really only need 5.
That's why we carry 2 radios.
Yep.
So comms was notorious for Afghanistan of failure of comms due to the topography of the area.
Not with SATCOM. SATCOM solved all that, right? So with SATCOM, we were fine. So depending on what type of communications we need to say, we either send it via PRC 137s in conjunction with our Turkey 43s, which is AM, and it did its stuff. I sent my first message out of Afghanistan on that using a KL 43. I'm dating myself, and it worked fine, right? And blasted it back. They got my Angus report, and we were good to go, right? But then we started doing our sit-reps on SATCOM because once they started to divide the 24-hour clock and the frequency spectrum up amongst all the teams. Hey, this is your block time to transmit any information you need to transmit up. So everybody had a chance. But then if anything important came up, we went from the 5-band to the 25-band channel, depending on what we were doing. Basically, we just divided up the electromagnetic spectrum. Then we divided up the clock, and here's your reservation times to come in and share what you've done for the day.
And was that just routine?
Mm-hmm. And then you had your 25 hertz channel for anything like a tick, anything important. You can call them there and get immediate feedback from powers that be, guidance, direction, calling casts, things like that.
So as you guys break up and you break out in these C teams, and you start to make your way out, what is the thought process that's going through your mind as you all now break out into these smaller groups?
As you saw in the film, ODA 595 broke out into the smaller sub-teams. We stayed as one team. The C team stayed as one team, and we advanced with Dostum, right? And then you saw in the movie where you said, you guys carry too much stuff and you guys are too slow.
Right.
That exactly happened. Dostum abandoned us on top of a hill. So here's the C team with our 130-pound rucksacks abandoned on top of this hill.
What's going through your head?
Well, we got to get off this hill, right?
We're slightly exposed.
Yeah, immediately we need to move.
Well, it was nighttime, so it was good. So Dostum's guys, you guys saw, he leaves. So we, being able to adapt to the environment, talk to some of the Afghans that are still with us. Where do we rent some animals at? So one guy takes off, and out of an hour later, he's got 3 donkeys. So we load all of our stuff onto 3 donkeys, and we walk off the hillside. But we had to rent the donkeys.
Oh, of course.
And you know how much a donkey costs to rent in Afghanistan?
Not offhand.
$100 a donkey.
Is there like a timeline associated with that $100?
But do you know why it's $100?
Because you got to buy it because it's probably not coming back.
No, because when you only come into country with $100 bills, everything costs $100.
Oh, it makes sense.
My man. Like you guys said, capitalism alive and well.
So we actually queered the entire economy once we rolled into Mazar-e Sharif. $100. Whoa, wait a minute. There's things called change.
Yeah.
So we're all going to do an exchange rate, or we're not going to buy anything else. I'm like, okay, well, we'll play along. So, but back to the 3 donkeys for $300. As you know, in the military, if anytime you exchange money for a service, you've got to sign for it.
Yep.
Well, guess where we're at? Most illiterate country in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, Mahmoud, you need to sign your name here. I don't know how to sign my name. Okay, can you just put an X here where it looks like you signed for it, and we'll call it good.
Now you're back to Vietnam again. Yep. Just X marks the spot.
And there's no treasure.
Well, he got us $300.
Right. His donkeys we returned him unharmed. So yeah, but it was just little silly stuff like that. That is like, we got to rent donkeys. All right. Got to keep going, right? Can't stop. How come the war was one? We couldn't find a donkey rental agency to get us off that hill.
There's no Hertz with sidewinders out here that I can just rent one real quick.
For jackasses in Afghanistan.
And then we walked off the hillside, linked up with Dostum's guys at the bottom. They were down there with this big truck, those big trucks that they have. So there's 50 guys in the back of it. We pile on with them, just jam ourselves in. We're sitting on top of the whole bottom of the truck is full of ammunition. And then there's this chicken running around in the bottom. Don't know why, but there's a chicken in the bottom of the truck, and we're just driving along. And then the cop would go, shh. Like, why? Taliban. We're going through Taliban area. I'm like, all right. And then after a while, okay, we're good now. I'm like, I have no idea rhyme of why we were good or why we were bad. There wasn't like a signpost entering enemy zone or anything like that. But like you see in the war films, right? Leaving a safe zone. Yeah, nothing like that there. But they just, they said that they knew. So what can we do but follow along?
And the notion too, it's not like the truck goes on silent mode once we're in the enemy zone.
Yeah, there's no cloaking button in there for you to just click.
Yeah, but usually the trucks go by. That's the sound they're used to, not people jibber jabbering in the back.
50 dudes
right.
in the back.
Right. So
and a chicken. Don't forget the chicken.
Don't forget the chicken. Chicken was probably very important because then it makes sure that it's the truck sound with the chicken.
Well, I'm glad that it wasn't morning time. If he started crowing, we would have been screwed.
Oh, yeah, because somebody's searching the truck after that.
My goodness. So you guys are making your way as you guys go through, and so you stay with Dostum the entire time.
Correct.
What were the feelings like being with essentially the dude that is the head guy over every one of these hierarchical groups?
Great question. Now, Dostum was smart, right? So when we first showed up there, and Dostum was like, hey, look, here's the deal. I don't want to be sending home Americans in body bags, because as soon as I do, you guys are going to leave. Because America doesn't have resolve. We've seen it before, right? So he goes, I want my guys out front. My guys are going to do the brunt of the fighting. I just need your support. So that was his end stated goal. He goes, to accomplish my mission, I don't need you guys getting killed. Because if I do, we're not going to be able to accomplish this. And so, we followed his guide. We brought the CAS in. We brought the supplies he needed. We brought the intelligence he needed. So whenever we ran into an obstacle, we'd call in CAS. And that's how we were helped. That's how we were able to move forward as quickly as we did, just because we could move faster than his guys could.
Yeah,
because they still had tanks, they still had BM-21s, and that big rocket attack you see in the movie that was on top. Part of that attack was on top of us. It was me, my Air Force STS guy, the C Team commander, and General Dostum were up in this hillside overlooking down into the Balk Valley, and there's Mazar-e Sharif in the distance, that's our end state right there. And then we had just ridden for about 2 hours and crossed a river, off to grandmother's house we go, and we get up to the top of this hillside, and we're getting off the horses, and all of a sudden you hear all these like boom, 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 booms coming out of the valley. Next thing you know, all these explode. I had just gotten all my commo gear, and I was just tacking my horse in, and all these bombs start exploding around us. I thought they were cluster bombs at first, right?
It's coming so quickly.
And I'm like, why is the Air Force dropping freaking cluster bombs on top of us, right? Which just happened before. Then I'm like, oh, yeah, it's the bad guys. And so my horse is now run off because of the explosion. My counterpart's like, hey, you got your commo gear? I'm like, it's right here. It's all good. So caught my horse, gave it back to the Afghani handler. Here's your horse back. Thank you. And we ran up the hill. And then there was a Taliban OP on the next hilltop over there with their little Thuraya or their walkie-talkie calling down to the valley, or the base of the valley where they're calling in the BM-21 strikes. And so then right after that, we heard that sounding like, oh, now we know what's coming. So we just hunkered down, and luckily it fell behind us. And then by that time, Dostum's group was able to push some riders over to them and push them off their hilltop so they could no longer have line of sight where to shoot at.
Right.
And they brought in some planes that dropped casts on top of those and took them out.
It seems like horses and BM-21s are not supposed to be going together in the same sentence.
No, they shouldn't, but it worked. Now, another time, this is directly from ODA 595, they were trying to coordinate, how to better attack. So the horses would line up, as I'm sure you've seen. Looks like, 3 rows of cavalry deep, right?
Right.
Yep.
Ready to charge and objective. So 95's got the B-52s on the line, and they got some tanks down there. And they're like, okay, look, here's the deal. It's all going through a translator, right? Like, hey, we're going to drop the bombs. Once the bombs are in the air and they get close, we'll say go or attack or whatever, right? So the bombs are now in the air, and it's getting translated. Well, when we say go, okay, go, so they take off. So
that's like right out of talk about out of a movie. That's right out of a movie.
And so they're like, we're going to destroy all Dopp's forces, and we're going to be done. And they're full blaze charge, a couple hundred meters before they get there, the bombs hit on the Taliban. They overrun the positions, like no casualties. Wrap it up. The Afghan commander's like, perfect, best attack ever.
Just as we drew it up.
Yeah, just like we planned it, sir. But I mean, it's just the little stuff like that. I mean, because you've got the language barrier. I was on one of our traverses one day. We got off the horses. We're on a hilltop, and I'm standing there, and this Afghan comes up and goes, mine. Like, oh, see, horse, no problem. Get my stuff off. Because every time we stop, we have to give our horse back. So very routine, mine. Okay.
Sure.
Then he goes, no. He's like, la, mine. I'm like, God, it's your horse. I'll give your horse back. So then I got my Gore-Tex jacket on the ground. I got my backpack on the ground. And he's like, pointing to my Gore-Tex jacket. He goes, mine. I'm like, no, that's my Gore-Tex jacket. We already passed off all the free stuff. And then he goes, no, Kambula, which as we all know in Arabic means explosives or explosion. Like, oh, I'm in a minefield.
Mine is not relative to like me, myself. It's like that goes boom, mine.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you setting everything down? Keep it up.
It's not me, myself, and my, right? It's like, it's mine. Think, okay, so the other 18 Echo goes, hey, since you're already in the minefield, can you just hand me my stuff since it's right next to you?
Yeah, I got you. Hold on one second. Let me just toss this back.
So I tossed all my stuff out, and they're like, just go right here. Because what they did when the Soviet War, the Spetsnaz would come in and land on the hilltops. So the Mujahideen would mine all the hilltops. So when the helicopters landed, they jump to a minefield. Well, they haven't picked all that up yet. They were very wary, and they were outside those hilltop areas because of that.
Well, and we were having a conversation with a dude talking about they didn't pick up the mines since the Soviets. we were talking to a dude who did a stint over in Gitmo, and his only job was to pick up the mines.
So he's the one guy not doing his job.
Oh, he was doing it.
Oh, yeah.
That was all he did for like
a year.
A year was just picking up old mines that had been laid down in Gitmo.
Oh, in the Gitmo area. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought he was a prisoner.
No. This was before.
I thought he was a prisoner from Afghanistan.
No, this is one of our dudes.
Okay, yeah.
And his only job out there before Gitmo became what it became, because this is this is pre 9/11.
Okay.
But his only job was to clear mines that we had laid back in 67 or whatever it was.
After the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So talk about like Mines are a thing, apparently. Like, you lay them once and maybe we'll get them. Or
Well,
somebody will
actually,
find them.
Yeah, they'll get found.
I brought a mine back. The EOD guys were clearing mines, and they gave me one. It's been disarmed, of course. And so I have a nice little Italian anti-personnel mine, which were one of the common mines that were all around Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's when your daughter starts dating a guy you don't like. And you're like, just remember, this is inert for right now.
I want you to hold on to this.
Just as a reminder.
Just
So you do your time over there. And you guys get back home. And I want to kind of start to dig into a little bit of like thinking back and looking at like what you guys started. And now that you've had some time and distance from it, and you're thinking about like, hey, we knew why we were there. How has that been evolving over the years for you as you look about your time there, what you did when you were there?
let's zoom back to 2020. When we saw Afghanistan fall,
Yeah.
I was like, what did we waste 20 years for? I mean, I was speaking on Patriots Day at the Calvin Coolidge Congressional Medal of Honor Center in Chattanooga. And I have a slideshow that I do because I brought a camera with me into Afghanistan, a digital camera. So I cataloged almost every day what we did. I have photos of where we were, what we did, our engagements, all that. I even have the letter that General Dostum wrote to George W. Bush. He wrote it in Arabic, of course, and then our translator translated it. I have a picture of that letter thanking George Bush for liberating Afghanistan. This is after he liberated Mazar-e Sharif. But I told the Vietnam vets there, I'm like, hey, I know how you feel now. I said, and I'm sorry. I've never known what you guys felt like by watching your blood and treasure spilled, your friends die, and then everything you did was for naught. You saw those helicopters fly out of the top of the embassy in Saigon. I said I felt the same way when I saw those planes fly out of Afghanistan, the people falling off the planes. I said I understand now. We should never do that again.
How do you, in your opinion, having been part of really success, for all terms, success while you were there, what we did,
Yep.
to then now see it essentially bookended with failure.
Let's call it what it is. It was failure, abject failure, and abject. It was surrender. We surrendered our position there, and we told all of our allies we can't be trusted.
How do you avoid that?
Well, when I was at VMI yesterday, someone asked the same question, and there's only one answer to that. Well, one, don't go to war. So you don't have to make that choice. That solves that. But if you do have to enter a conflict, have an end state, have an end goal, and then meet that goal and end it, right? Keep the promises you made, do what you say you were going to do. That solves that, and that regains trust in the world. And again, that we are a trusted partner, not a fair weather friend.
Do you think there was actually a desire to win that war, though?
When we first went in, yes. We did our part. I mean, I don't want to get into politics or anything like that, but
Sure.
as I think we all know, we all saw the creep, and it became a daily part of our lives, like going to work, and no one complained about it. It was just part of our lives. Towards the end, when no one was dying anymore, it was just like going to work in a rough part of town. Sometimes bad things happen, sometimes don't. But as long as there was nothing on the news, it doesn't exist. And then for about several months, about a year, when no one was dying over there, it was business as usual. Then the collapse came. That's when it reared its ugly head again. Did you guys hear anything on the news before the collapse?
I've learned more about the conflict and having these conversations with guys that spent time over there
Than you ever will in the news.
100%.
Right, but the news was reporting anything.
Oh,
that's where 90% of people get their information every day, right? Because that's what they've been ingrained to, especially our parents, right? You watch the nightly news. Cronkite told you what the facts were, and that's what they still expect. But it's no longer that anymore. It's hit piece news, and it's no longer we're getting just the facts, ma'am, just the facts like Joe Friday and freaking in Dragnet. It's massaged. It's designed to elicit a response as opposed to inform.
And then who is trying to design that response, and what's that response for?
Exactly. And everybody's got their little freaking subtle all the political parties, we want you to think this way, we want you to think that way. But I think 90% of us just like to, you know what? Let's just be good to each other, share what we know, and drive forward together. It's not this us against them is not going to work.
And knowing all that misinformation, right, or that curated information that came out around this, it's got to fuel your desire to go around and do all the speaking that you do.
It does. It shows, hey, look, this is the good part of the Afghanistan, because one of the pictures that I talk about there is a little girl. And it's like the only picture of a female I have from the entire time that I was there. She's probably about 4 years old. She's in her little girl dress. She got her slippers on. She's walking on a horse manure covered road. And when we left Afghanistan and had liberated Mazar-e Sharif and the new government was put in place, guess what she had? Freedom. She could go to school. She could get educated for the first time in her generation's life. She could get a job if she was in the right place. But the world opened up to her as a person that was able to do things more than a select group of 5 things that her society allowed. She was given, look at some of the women who've come out of Afghanistan and some of the things that they have done during that 20-year time, frame where, the aperture was open for them. But when she woke up, she went to bed one morning and could do these things. She went to bed that night free and woke up a slave the next morning. Back to Taliban rule again. Put your burqa on. You can't go back outside without a male escort. She then became a second-class citizen again. And she lost a life that she's probably only known for 20 years.
Yeah, because if you start, so by the time, so she's 20, or she would be 4, so she'd be 24.
Yeah.
So at that point, she's literally spent her
entire life.
Basically her entire life that she remembers is a free citizen. And now all of that's gone. But you go from slave to now you're an individual and you have opportunity back to no opportunity.
That's the biggest tragedy, I feel, where we've really failed in that department, because we promised somebody something and we gave them a taste of it, and then we took it, and it was taken away.
It's worse, right? It's better to loved and lost, but never loved at all. But it's like, I don't know.
Freedom's a pretty big thing to lose because you can't get that back.
Yeah, it's not like a T-bone. Like you can go get another one of those.
And you can find another girlfriend if that love didn't work, that one didn't work out right. But freedom, that's a generational thing you'll have to wait for, if at all.
As you speak to young people, as you go to VMI, you were at Fishburne Military School earlier today.
Yes.
What is the biggest thing that you're wanting this next generation of men
and women men at Fishburne, men and women at VMI? But what is this next generation that wants to be able to theoretically pick up that rifle again and continue that good fight in whatever avenue they do, right? Not going to be literally a rifle, right? It could be also a radio, but or
it could
laser.
Or a laser.
I was speaking at Hillsdale Academy outside of Chattanooga last year. So when I really got started into this whole thing. And at the end of my little presentation, I was asking the students questions, and one of the students said, "Hey, why is it important for someone like you to come talk to us?" Great question. And luckily I had an epiphany, and I said, because you can't ask a book a question. And too many times where we learn our information from, it's from a book. So we're learning someone's opinion or someone's view at that time of when the book was written. And books are written by who?
The victors.
Exactly. So if that's the only perspective you can get 50 years from now, are you really getting what the conscience of the nation was at the time, or from the men who experienced it at the time when it was there? So I encourage all of them to really look. If you have the opportunity to speak with someone who was there, grind down and ask them all the questions you want, because once they're gone, that knowledge is gone. All those stories, like some of the ones I've shared here, won't be remembered because it's not in a book. It was in some guy's mind that he only shared when he felt comfortable with his fellow friends around him or his other, brothers in arms. A lot of those stories are told. And I've had the chance to talk to some amazing Vietnam, Korean War, even a couple Tuskegee airmen, and they've shared things with me that aren't in books.
Well, that, and you also have to remember now when you look at history books, things that are omitted from books that are important.
Well, and it's, to me, the most interesting stories are often the ones that are never going to make it in a book because you're not the hero, or it's not a heroic moment, but it's so relative, especially if we're going to talk about like the human spirit, how we interact with one another. Like I had a friend in college, and he did his entire thesis for his PhD on white trash that lived in Haiti. And I'm like, why? What would have motivated you to do that? He goes, because you have an entire section of an entire society that never would have done anything relevant to ever have been written down. He goes, if you're able to capture that little piece, he goes, you have an entire world of human that has existed forever there. And he goes, and we have nothing on them. Nothing's ever been written. So it was his ability to go, like, learned Haitian, learned everything so he could go and be able to go communicate and get that and capture those stories. And he's like, it's the best first-hand account of an entire group that essentially has never had a voice ever. And it's
Like a lost tribe.
without a doubt. And you have firsthand experience with people that were slaves. Your young girl is an example.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about an entire lost tribe of human that now you get to bring a voice to and bring that voice to the voiceless. Like, those are the stories. So I think absolutely. How did in Chattanooga, how did they respond with that?
They liked it. And then the questions really started to, percolate up to the surface. And now when I close my discussions, I share you can't ask a book a question. So you kind of force them to think like, oh man, he's just called us out, right? He said, he just gave us the opportunity to ask questions. I guess we better ask questions because, we threw the gauntlet down. And it has really elicited some great conversations of just, even the kids at Fishburne today. I mean, very succinct, great questions. You get some of your other ones, but, some were very thoughtful, what motivated you to, what's your biggest takeaway from there? Would you change anything again? Would you still join? I mean, would you go a different path? I mean, great questions. Like a lot of them said, look, how do you motivate yourself? I said, well, the motivation is very easy. It's getting started. It's the hard part. Like it's when you're standing in the door on in an airplane and the jump master says, jump. If you don't jump, you'll never start the journey. So just put that first foot in front of you because that's your start.
Right.
Right. And once you start the journey, don't stop. Chunk it if you have to. Get through your small gates. Just continue to move forward to your end state. And if you have to put some little, gates in there to get you there, to motivate you, like we do with kids now, instead of giving you everything, we're going to chunk you to get you there. So, you don't lose your perpetual motion. Let's get you there. And I said, build your long range plan and then build gates to get to it. 'Cause you'll always be moving towards your goal.
So when you decided you didn't join the Army as an 18 Delta, right?
I was an 18 Echo.
Or 18 Echo. When you decide that you're going to be one of the few, how does that, when you look at it now, did you think then that you would have ever been or done things you have done to this point?
A friend of mine asked me, I texted him today, check this out. I'm going to be at VMI speaking. And they're like, and they've known pretty much a lot of the stuff that I've done for years. We've been friends since high school. And they said, did you ever think your life would have turned out the way it has, the people you've met? And I said, if you would have sat me down in high school and said, this is going to be your path, I would have said, you're on drugs.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to accomplish all these things. I said, there's no way.
Yeah. One of my dad's closest friends, and they're both gone now, but was a Navy SEAL. And so he and I used to have long conversations about, when you joined the Navy, did you ever think that you would become a SEAL, or was that ever like in the wheelhouse of things you thought, wanted, anything? And so was being 18 series ever, was that something you wanted like as a kid? Did it just kind of develop? Like, how did that end up happening?
Great question. I didn't even know what 18 series was. Okay. I saw, Be All You Can Be commercials. My dad was in the Army, he was drafted. Didn't go to Vietnam, went to Germany instead. And so it's a junior in high school. Recruiters come around. Hey, you're smart. You should join this. You should join that. I'm like, well, want to go to college, want to get a degree in engineering, construction, something like that. Maybe I'll go to college, get my $25,000, get a sign-on bonus, travel the world a little bit, right? Get out, go to college. All right, sign up. So I signed up in a delayed entry program. So come November of my senior year, I already had my career set. I'm going to join the Army in July, right? So I finished school. Slacked off a little bit, but I finished school. My mother was a teacher there, so I couldn't slack off that much because she knew what was going on before we even did. So graduated, and then, come July, I'm in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, being introduced to what the South is because I'd never experienced humidity before. So
definitely being from the Pacific Northwest, that's going to be
I'm like, what is this sticky stuff? So
in July, you're welcome.
I learned what a Lister bag was. I learned, the cooling sprays to get cool. Marched there a couple of times, and then did that. And then I went to Fort Gordon I was a single channel operator because I got a $5,000 bonus for that, and I got stationed in Germany right off the bat.
Win-win.
Yep. So I got my $25,000 college thing, my $5,000 bonus. I get to Germany, and I get stationed in Munich, Germany, and I bypassed the repo depot in Germany, direct assignment. I'm in the 18th MI battalion. It's during the 80s when they're doing that Army of Excellence stuff.
Yep.
Where all TDA units have to have a tactical component to it. I was the first inset of the tactical portion to a TDA unit. So where's my barracks at? Oh, we live in 3-bedroom apartments. Here's your apartment, bathroom, Jeanette. I'm like, what's all the formations? We do one formation a day. It's in civilian clothes. We do PT down in the housing area. I'm like, this Army thing is awesome.
I don't know what everybody's talking about.
It's nothing like what I saw in the movies.
Yeah, right.
And so the first I would come around once a month, make sure our apartments were clean. And we did one we went to the field for a week every year. That was it. Because we were a TDA battalion. So we didn't do any of that stuff. So other than we did rat training once a week and did that, it was a place to, traveled a lot, learned a lot, had a great time. And I said, I got to get out of this place. So I did my 2 years there, came to Fort Lewis, Washington, to 502nd MI battalion. I'm like, oh, this is the Army that they were telling me about. 5 formations a day, down at the motor pool all the time, out in the field all the time. Like, got it. And so I did my 4 years, and I'm like, you know what? I really enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so during that first 4 years, I did 2 years in Korea, 2 years in Germany, 1.5 years at Fort Lewis, went to Korea, came back to Fort Lewis, and they wanted to put me into the ADA unit that was there. I'm like, I really don't want to go to the ADA unit. So I went to first group, got a letter of acceptance to go to first group, got my orders, going to go into the ADA unit. I'm like, I really don't want to go there. So took some initiative, and I went down and got an audience with the brigade battalion sergeant major. Like, hey, I'm Sergeant Spence, coming to your unit. I'd like to have a team, bucka. He's like, how about working in the vault, do all the OPSEC stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'd rather not do that. And I go, I've got a letter here from first group that they'd love to have me. He's like, really? He's like, hold on. Picked up the phone. You willing to jump out of the planes? Sure am. You're switching. That right there is what changed my entire military career. That single act of initiative.
That's it.
Yep. So then I went over to first group. I'm like, this is where the adults are. Loved it. I was in Ranger School 2 months later, and I was with a non-infantry background. I had done infantry nothing. So I read the Ranger Handbook and followed it step by step. And once I got into Ranger School, I got hurt during the PT test. So I had 30 days of reconditioning in the gulag. And then I started the next class and went straight through and got back, and then went to airborne school, and then went to selection. And then I graduated in 94, ended up in 5th group in 1995, and didn't leave 5th group until 2011. That's my path.
And where the adults are.
Where the adults are. Yep. I like that a lot.
I mean, because it was like, hey, here's all the rope you need to hang yourself. Mm-hmm. Do what you want. Be here at this time. 65-pound rucksack to go do your rucksack margin. It was the adult in the room where you didn't need to be coddled, right? Be where you're supposed to be, do what you're supposed to do. And for most people, we operate on those terms every day. We pay our bills on time, right? Same thing in the military, be on time. And this is where it is. And the ability to, come up with training and expand stuff as opposed to, all this, it was just for my mindset and how I look at things, it was the right place for me to put my square peg in the round hole.
And just living proof of just put one foot in front of the other.
Yep.
And when you get the opportunity to show initiative, show it.
Yep.
And what happens next happens.
Yep. And then when I talk to the students, when I'm talking about, because I have this whole thing of slides, we're doing the horse soldier story thing. And I'm like, now, they're like in summation, I said, so I brought a camera into Afghanistan, right place, right time. And at that time, I took 2 pictures. Those 2 pictures have done these things. They created an iconic photo, which is held up by Donald Rumsfeld, right? That iconic photo then turned into a book by Doug Stanton. That book then turned into a movie by Jerry Bruckheimer. That picture then turned into a statue, which overlooks the reflecting pools at ground zero. So from one photograph, all these things happened. And I said, none of this would have happened if I didn't raise my right hand to volunteer.
From burying a piece of the Twin Towers in Afghanistan to getting a statue built, and now where that monument lies, that's a hell of a story.
It's an unbelievable story. It's crazy.
Chris, I appreciate you being with us, brother.
Can I throw into one anecdote?
I want you to.
My mother taught photography in school. I didn't take her course.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the beauty of learning on the job. I love that. Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you for listening to Veteran Story Hour, Voices of Valor, presented by Saluda, Virginia. We're honored to share these real stories from real people, veterans, family members, and community leaders who served in all kinds of ways. If today's story resonated with you, we'd love for you to leave a review, follow the podcast, and share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. Every listen helps keep these voices alive and heard. New episodes drop twice a month, so stay tuned. We've got more stories coming your way. Stories of grit, grief, humor, healing, and the kind of truth that sticks with you. Until next time, take care of yourself, check in on someone you served with, and keep listening.